Well, we want to welcome everybody on a beautiful morning here. My name is Chris Jones from Titan Media Entertainment. We have Roy Johnson, City Commissioner, with us today. We're going to talk about quite a few of the completed 2020 projects, and we're at one of them right now. We're at Sunrise Park South Boat Ramp, a beautiful venue. We've got Roy with us. Roy, good morning. Can we talk about what's on your mind this morning?
Well, good morning from the city of Holly Hill. And although we have many great departments in the city of Holly Hill, today we're talking about completed projects and the accomplishments of Public Works Department only. And Public Works completed many projects in the year of 2020, which was highly controversial and a tough year for all of us. But one of the main things that I look at, I believe in the three L's, and you look, you listen, and you learn. And I went to Public Works, and I spent time with them, and I learned what the projects were that they completed. I went to each and every one of them, and one of them is a great one that we're at now with the boat ramps. Many people use it. It doesn't just have to be Holly Hill residents, but many people use it. It's a large area with lots of parking. And also, we have several other projects. And is anything on this sheet that you would like to ask for any other projects we have?
Well, again, we're here with Roy Johnson, City Commission, and we're going to touch on some of the 2020 completed projects here. Let's start with the sludge tank walkway placement. Can you talk a little bit about that?
The walkway was replaced. I'll make it short. Walkway was replaced, which the other one was getting deteriorated quite a bit. And I walked over and looked at it. There's quite a bit more was involved than just saying the walkway was replaced, but that's good enough for that one. Let's go to the next one.
Well, the remote control system for the water and the wastewater plant, can we talk a little bit about that?
Well, that's my very favorite because they automated the water and the wastewater systems, and that will turn hours of work into minutes of work. Just think of how much money it'll save the city in the future with wear and tear on vehicles, fuel used, time used to go inspect things where you now can sit and look at a computer in a few minutes where it used to take hours to do it. It'll save so much for the city. And I firmly believe in automation. I believe we're going forward in the right direction there.
Roy, let's talk about the Riverside Pedestrian Bridge replacement here, our third issue for this morning.
That pedestrian bridge replaced the old wooden bridge, which is just a tiny bit south of us here on the same street, and it's a state-of-the-art aluminum bridge, and I invite everyone to walk over to look at it.
If we can move into the re-roofing of several of the city buildings, can we talk about that? Several
buildings they re-roofed. They did. I mean, I could get into several of them was in Public Works Department and in other areas, but that's just a matter of they spend the time and they did do the re-roofing of them.
Well, we want to remind everybody we're with Roy Johnson here, City Commission. We're talking about some of the completed 2020 projects here. Roy, let's talk about the DAF Tank 1 and 2 cleaning. Can you explain that?
That sounds very simple, but it's a very complicated project. That's one where they take a crane and lift a Bobcat into the tank, scoop things out, had to load many loads had to be hauled to the West Coast to be disposed of, and it was very expensive and not quite as simple as it sounds of just cleaning a tank.
Let's talk about the Flomich Street paving here. That's a street we just passed off.
All the way from Nova Road to US 1, and anyone that drives on Flomich would really appreciate that, and I'm one of them.
How about the Daytona Avenue paving as well, too?
Yes, that is a great project. The Daytona Avenue pavement is where we put the bridge on a while back, a new bridge, and that has the street paved as well, which is very nice.
Well, our last point here is the Ross Point restroom building. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yes, Ross Point is a park on the river right south of us, just a little way south of where we're standing now. They put new building, brand new concrete block building with state-of-the-art restrooms in it. And it's going to be great because the kids play in the park here, and then the parents and kids have a restaurant.
Well, we have Roy Johnson, City Commission, and we're talking about the 2020 completed projects. We thank Roy for his time. Well, we want to welcome everybody back again to Titan Media Entertainment here. We are with Penny Curry. She is a commissioner for District 2, and we have a very unique location. We're actually physically in the police department, And
Yes,
Penny,
we are.
today we are going to talk about the stats for 2020 for the police department and the fire department. Let's talk about that.
All right. For the year 2020, the calls of service for our police department were at 28,086 calls. Now that's in comparison to 2019, which was 27,091 calls. So they did have a slight increase of calls for service. Now, as another breakdown for that, their reports that they wrote were 2,123 for 2020 and 2,406 for 2019. So that is a little lower. Traffic stops were huge in 2020 as we had a lot of citizen complaints about speeders and reckless drivers. So we were at 4,852 for last year, and in 2019 we were only at 1,575. So they have taken that information from the citizens and tried to implement a plan. Our arrests for last year were 408 as compared to 2019, where we were at 575. And for this year, the uniform crime reporting for the first half of 2020 decreased by 33%. That is huge for a small agency like Holly Hill to have such a decrease. And then I guess we'll go on to the fire department. How
Well,
does
yeah,
that
we'd
sound?
love to hear about the fire
All
department.
right. Our fire department had a total of 2,842 responses last year, and that is a little bit of an increase over 2019, which had 2,768 calls for service. Now, they do their reporting a little differently, and that is their total calls, and broken out from that are some topics that are a little more interest to people. Medical last year was 1,754. For their citizen assist was 302. Motor vehicle accidents they responded to was 84, but that was a decrease from 133, in 2019. Vehicle fires were 11. Structure fires, they had 61 that they responded to with 33 confirmed. And their response times on average for last year was 4 minutes and 33 seconds. And in 2019, it was 4 minutes, 43 seconds. So they improved upon their response time, which is very good.
Well, the grants. Let's get into that very
Okay.
quickly here as we end our interview here. They both received grants.
Yes, they did. And the fire department received a $7,500 grant for Narcan. And Narcan is used when a person has a drug overdose.
Right.
And it helps to bring them back.
Okay.
And they actually had 141 times that they had to utilize Narcan last year. And our police department's grants, they received $60,000 for their COVID-19 grant to purchase PPE and 2 Aeroclave machines, which sterilizes the buildings and cars. They also received a grant for body-worn cameras. So now all of our full-time sworn officers are wearing body-worn cameras. And they also received a FDOT, or a Florida Department of Transportation grant of $40,000 to address our aggressive driving and speeding concerns.
Well, we want to thank Penny Curry again for her time today. Commission District 2, we thank you, Penny.
Thank you.
Well, we want to welcome everybody back again to Titan Media Entertainment. We're at City Hall. I have John Penny with me. He's the District 1 City Commissioner and the current Vice Mayor. John, good to have you with us today here. And 2020 is definitely a year that we want to put behind us here. But we definitely want to talk about some of the financial issues that you experienced last year.
Right. Well, thanks for having me, and thanks for being here today.
You're welcome.
The first 2 quarters of last year were basically status quo. And our quarter started October 1st, 2019. So you have to go back in time. The third quarter came around and in March, and we were in the middle of COVID, the pandemic. And everything was status quo until then. Budget, revenue, expenditures were right on target. Third quarter came around and we had to actually declare a state of emergency in the city of Holly Hill. We were really concerned because the state revenues went down anywhere from 26 to 52%. We put an immediate spending freeze on things and had to really take some hard looks at where we were going to go from there.
Let's talk about, well, it sounds like 2020, and I think in everybody's business, personal lives, etc., there were a lot of challenges here. But I know as the year progressed, as we learned what was going on and adapted here, any bright points in 2020?
Actually, the third quarter was rough.
Okay.
The fourth quarter came back and revenues bounced back to their normal levels. And so that was good. During that time, we reduced our budget approximately 8%. We put a hard line on expenditures during that time. But the fourth quarter was kind of a ray of sunshine for us as it was coming back. But we're looking forward to things returning to normal.
Okay.
You know, the vaccine is being distributed throughout the community, and we're all hopeful for that and thankful for that. One thing that was a shot in the arm for the city was the CARES Act, the Federal CARES Act. We received almost $430,000 to help us with that third quarter and through the whole pandemic. That was to help us with the overtime that was needed through firemen and police at that time. And so one thing that we saw was the state revenues went down during that pandemic. The water and utility rates remained stable. And that seemed like it was a good thing, but the bad thing was that our accounts receivable increased almost 23% for bad water rates and uncollectible rates at that time because so many people had lost their jobs, were unable to make their payments to the city. And so, I guess last year looking back, I don't think it's as bad as it could have been. And that CARES Act really helped us to come back. Our revenues were down about 3% overall. We cut our expenses about 8% overall throughout the calendar year. And that infusion of capital from the CARES Act actually made us to come out in a positive cash position for going into 2021.
Do you expect your role to be bigger this year? Of course, the vaccine is another new big responsibility that city commissioners and officials, and of course it all starts with the government. Is that going to bring your role to a higher place?
The role as administering the vaccines?
Or just getting it into the right people at the right time?
Actually, we've been asked that question. We really don't have the manpower to do that. They've approached our fire department about doing that. The problem is that you have to have a very large area to facilitate a couple hundred people showing up. Then you have to watch them for at least 15 to 20 minutes afterwards and make sure they socially distance, and then bring in people on overtime to facilitate that. I think that Florida Healthcare, right here in the city of Holly Hill, is going to play a pivotal role in that vaccine distribution for us.
Well, John, you've covered pretty much everything. 2020 was a good beginning. Of course, COVID really took us by surprise, but we adapted. We moved a Rayolite in the fourth quarter,
right,
and now we step into the era of a vaccine. John, we appreciate your time today. John Penny, the District 1 City Commissioner, also the current Vice Mayor. We thank you for your time, John.
Thank you, sir.
Well, we want to welcome everybody back again to Titan Media Entertainment, and we're at Pictona, and we have John Danio. Now, he's the City Commissioner here of District 3. John, thank you for giving us some time today here, and we've got lots to talk about. Let's start very quickly before we talk about some of the redevelopment projects of the city that you were involved with, but the increasing value of the city, that's good news.
Yeah, it's real good news. Our city has increased in value some $47 million this year, along with our community redevelopment in the tune of about $47 million, I say, and then $13 million, and which is a pretty substantial amount of money.
Well, that's great. Now, the increasing value in the middle of 2020, in the middle of COVID, took a lot of work and a lot of vision here. You mentioned here before we got into this interview that a lot of the projects, the things that are upcoming, the place we're sitting in, and your involvement. Let's talk about the numerous projects that gave the value again to this city.
We partnered with the Martins in this facility that we're sitting in right now, Pictona, which is probably our proudest moment and probably going to put us on the map here. I mean, it's
Fabulous.
24 courts. It's got a community center for adults. It's got community gardens. It's got clubhouse, restaurant. I mean, it's got it all. So you will not be bored here. And if you haven't come out and seen what pickleball is all about, I urge you to come out and take a look. It's amazing.
It is amazing. We've been here before shooting actually footage, which we did for the Marriott. They picked Pictone out all the way in NSB to come all the way out here. But the city is moving not just because of one project. Now you guys have done quite a few. Let's continue to talk.
We watched the Florida Healthcare Facility take over the SunTrust building a while back and totally renovate that. It turned out great. Along with on Nova Road, we have the Flight Gymnastics Center, which I got to go in there and talk to Gina up front. Saw the little kids bouncing off the trampolines and in their leotards and stuff. It's 30,000 square foot gymnastics center, and it's amazing. They've got ninja training coming in, and they've got all kinds of programs from 3 years on up.
Let me ask you something. I mean, these are not small projects. I mean, usually when people jump into a particular time frame, if there's going to be more than one project, they're going to all be small so you can manage them. These are not small. You guys jumped into some very sizey projects. Was it a lot of work? Was it thought out?
Let's go big or go home, Chris.
I like that. I like that. Well, let's talk about the money part here. To get things moving, it's all based on the dollar in grants. Can we talk a little bit about the CRA grants that you guys involved?
Yeah, some of the grants that we had, the community redevelopment grants work in such a way that the city matches funds with the business and residents in a certain corridor. And from the Wilson's BMW garage on the north end of town to the Madden's Ace Hardware on the south end of town, we've helped them in their painting, their re-signage, their repaving, their roofing, repainting roofing, and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, so as long as the owners and the residents are willing to kick in their fair share, we've helped to spruce up the city, and we think we're going in the right direction.
Well, increasing values, big projects. A business owner who's been here 33 years, I got to give you your plug as well too.
Okay, thanks.
Longevity is powerful,
Yeah.
Especially when we go through COVID, and we'll finish up our conversation and talking about COVID, but you were very active in helping the small businesses, again, with grants, PPE stuff. Explain some of that.
We pitched in with the rest of the municipalities in the county, did our fair share in helping distribute the protective equipment to the businesses that needed it, certain grants to businesses that needed it, and we even managed to continue our trunk or treat.
I like that.
Yeah, and our cruising the hill for the school supplies.
That was good.
CDC guidelines, of course.
Right.
But we managed to get that in toward the end of the year. So we had a pretty good year. And, there are challenges, not to say that there aren't, but
Right.
we've been through it. Whether it's COVID, hurricanes, et cetera, we've been through it. And we're a tough little town.
That's perfectly put. You know what, it takes people. We've got grants and PPE stuff, but it's the people behind us. An owner of 33 years here in Holly Hill, you've seen it all, small, medium, and large. And for somebody to say it's been a good year during COVID, which means the projects, the increased values, and your participation in bringing small businesses a little bit of help this year. We thank, again, John Danio, Commission District 3,
Yes, sir.
and we thank him for this time.